You do it. Make your dreams come true. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Just do it.
Welcome to Uncommon Knowledge. I'm Peter Robinson. Be sure to join us, by the way, on Facebook at facebook.com/UNC Knowledge. Facebook.com/UNC Knowledge. An economist, syndicated columnist, and best-selling author, Thomas Sowell is a fellow at the Hoover Institution. Over the course of his long and storied career, Dr. Sowell has taught economics at institutions including Cornell, Amherst, and UCLA. Dr. Sowell's latest book, a revised and updated version of his classic volume, Basic Economics. Here is the first edition of Basic Economics, and here is the new edition showing that Tom Sowell never rests. To quote from Basic Economics, through its various editions, the fundamental idea behind Basic Economics remains the same. Learning economics should be as uncomplicated as it is informative, close quote. Welcome, Tom. No charts, no equations, all words, plain English.
That's right, no graphs.
No graphs, no graphs, all right. Well, would you help me to uncomplicate a few things today?
All right.
All right. Segment 1, the present crisis. Now, I posted notices several places that I'd be interviewing you and asked folks for questions and got overwhelmed with questions. I can only offer a few, but here are some. From Ken Sweeney of Ricochet. This is the basic of the basics. How is wealth created? And why does the United States have the highest per capita GDP of any major country?
Wow. How many years do I have to answer this question?
It's television. You've got about 90 seconds at the most.
Oh, I guess wealth is created when the circumstances are such that people who know how to create it are free to do so. One of the things that pains me in the current crisis is people saying that Congress really needs to do something to make the economy recover. No, they need to let the economy recover. That the economy did not get to be the biggest in the world by politicians doing things. All the millions of other people whose names we don't even know, those are the people who made it the biggest economy in the world. And if politicians will get out of their way, we can and let the economy recover, it can do that.
Tom, we've been talking about the crisis. Let's take a step back. 1983 until 2008. The American economy experiences a quarter of a century of nearly uninterrupted economic growth. Then, beginning in the autumn of 2008, trouble. What went wrong?
Well, actually, it started much earlier, and I think it was the housing boom, followed by the housing bust, which occurred in 2006.
2006, much
and
earlier.
So the reverberations of that is, there are people out there who had trillions of dollars invested in securities based upon mortgages. And when people stopped paying their mortgages, the value of the securities vanished into thin air.
So you do not argue that this was a financial crisis that spilled over into the real economy. You argue that it was a problem in the real economy, particularly the housing market,
yes,
that started the problem in the financial sector.
Oh, absolutely. If people had kept paying their mortgages, the securities would have been good, and we would have all lived happily ever after. Now the problem is that the politicians made the mortgages more risky by changing the rules. In other words, at one time, mortgages were considered the safest investment. This is for the widows and orphans who need their money coming in regularly, and you put it into real estate. But the politicians decided that we must have more home ownership and more affordable housing. And so they began to prescribe rules. You had to lend money to people you wouldn't have lent to before. And of course, there was a reason they weren't lending to them before. And we discovered the hard way what that reason was, that they weren't likely to be able to pay them back.
Very profound question here, I think, anyway. Did what happened indicate, the housing market problem, did that indicate that markets, wonderful as they are, wonderful as you demonstrate over and over again in basic economics that free markets are, that they sometimes experience troubles, calamities even, that the markets are imperfect because they're rooted in human experience and we live in a fallen world? Or did it demonstrate that the government messed things up?
The government messed them up. After all, for a century, you never had this kind of crash in the real estate market. For centuries, people did their life's work lending money for mortgages did that without the politicians interfering. Once the politicians started meddling, the results were what you could have predicted. It's what was predicted, in fact.
All right.